What does the summer make you think of? For Salem and I, it is all things Americana. Red, white, and blue, nostalgia, retro, durability, standing the test of time. Today, we're going to talk about all the things that resonate with us when we think about what Americana means, and we want to share those with you, and we hope you enjoy today's show.
You're listening to the We Need to Talk podcast, and we are your hosts, Salem Shannon and Megan Beaver.
Two millennial moms, ambitious professionals, an interior designer, and a business executive.
Join us for conversations that unravel all the things that not only hold us together, but sometimes fall apart.
If you're looking to laugh, cry, and be inspired while keeping it real,
you're in the right place. Grab your drink. We need to talk.
Good evening, Salem.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Yes.
I feel like it's been a few minutes since we've actually recorded.
Well, it really has. I went on vacation. That always kind of throws you off. And then you spend the rest of the summer trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just me that feels that way.
Well, and it's summer and we've had a lot going on ourselves between summer break is not actually really a break when you have kids. So it's been a little hectic, but I'm glad to be here. I think today we are talking about the most classic of classic topics, which is all things Americana.
Yeah. And so let's talk about first, what does that even really mean? And so I'm going to give you a definition, and this could go a million different ways. But okay, so just we say Americana. What does that mean? So Americana, very basically, and at the core level, is a collection of materials and or things that characterize the United States or the American people. Like plain and simple, that's the definition.
Oh.
But okay, this conversation could go a million different ways just based off of that definition. And it's probably also worth noting that Americana is also a type of music. Like it's its own genre. I didn't really realize that, but it is its own genre. But we're not really, I don't think we're going to talk about that today. When I think of Americana, I think of like nostalgia. And so I think that's one of the more common things. Like when you say, okay, like when you hear the word used in a sentence, more than likely I'm hearing it or thinking about it in terms of nostalgia. So like thinking of like a simpler time in American history, or just like even my childhood and like the American-esque things that we used to do. I think about my grandmother, I get those like nostalgic feelings. Like and I'm reading from the depths of the internet. Americana, like the word, it serves as a reminder of the past and an appreciation for the traditions and values that shaped the nation. It's interesting.
That is. That's super interesting. I love that. What's really funny is I just now realized I'm wearing Americana colors. Not intentionally whatsoever, but it is the week of the 4th of July, and I tend to vibe with that theme. But I agree. I think I can relate to what you were saying, like the things that you think about when it comes to Americana, right? And the nostalgia behind it and the simplicity of the origin of our country, or the things that used to characterize who we were as a people, right?
Right.
And some of those things that I like to still implement and like carry on through traditions that we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, given our current cultural and political and economic climate, this conversation about Americana could take a bunch of twists and turns.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think, especially this week of all the weeks, like this is the nostalgic version of Americana that I think we're going to discuss. I don't really, I don't want to have a political conversation because, quite frankly, we're just in trouble. But and everybody's familiar with it. It's just this, depending on like where you wanted to take this conversation, it could just go a million different ways. But of course, I would love to just talk about the nostalgic part of Americana.
Yeah, I think it's important that you mentioned the appreciation and almost the honoring of Americana, right? So I think we should dive into some of those things and kind of compare and contrast. I mean, we grew up in this similar area, so I think that we probably have some similar um, things and paths that we took as through childhood that we love now, and that we just really do still have a full appreciation for, that make us proud to be American. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's about, right? Is that we're all American if we were born in this country, and it still is a country of freedom, which is what we are known for. So what are those freedoms and those appreciations that we have?
Well, I love that you said, that you were proud to be an American. Because ultimately, I think the media, whether it's social media or the news or like everything that's going on in our world today, makes you want to be, makes you just feel not necessarily shame, but like makes you like puts it into question whether or not you're proud to be an American. But ultimately, I'm proud to be an American. And yes, you're right. Americana, it celebrates all the things that make us or that characterize us as Americans. And so I think it is something to celebrate.
Absolutely. And I've always been a really proud American, regardless of what's happening politically in a government, right? Simply because I'm not as well traveled as some people I know, but we have an entire team that is international. And so just knowing some of their backgrounds and having conversations with them, I think that this information and this awareness of what privilege we do have as Americans. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that simply as like we truly do get to stretch our freedoms and use them, and regardless of what you believe or approve of or accept or not accept, like the fact is you get to think those things. You get to have an opinion. You have the ability. It's really crazy. You have the ability to go shop wherever you would like to shop based on your budget, and that is not an option in a lot of places. And so, you know, I also take it real back to my roots, just like the idea of Southern hospitality, um, which is what we grew up on, and I think that
Right.
that's a big thing, that keeps me rooted and proud in those, um, just the things that we've done and we've grown up on.
Absolutely. So let's talk about um, some examples of Americana in terms of like visual, like just some of these. If we were talking about like the true definition, like materials and collections of things, like
Mm,
let's talk about examples of Americana. Like, what are some
okay.
of the first things that you think about when you hear the word Americana?
Oh gosh, why don't you start? I feel like being a good collector, and also know you fact checked and you researched. So I would love for you to start this game.
Okay, so okay, just to like let's make it easy. Anything red, white, and blue,
Mhm.
right? So anything red, white, and blue. But okay, we'll break it down into like, there are all kinds of different categories, but like some things that are very specific and that like come up in all the lists are things like the American flag. I mean, that's the easy one, right?
Yeah.
Um, Apple pie,
Mm.
classic American dessert. Um, Baseball is often referred to as America's pastime.
Yeah.
Yep. Things like blue jeans, cowboy boots.
Yes. Those are all good
Yes.
ones. I think of like bandanas.
Yep, that one was coming up in my mind too. Like you just think Fourth of July, and if you're going to do red, white, and blue, like classic red bandana.
Yeah.
Also consider like artwork or like artists that captured
Mm.
what it meant to be an American. So Norman Rockwell, um, let's taking it back for a minute, but Rockwell is famous for his paintings of like everyday American life,
Oh, I love that.
right? So um, that's always kind of an interesting one. If we took the art route, the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. I definitely think that it's really funny too because when I come across those things, I actually or these pieces or the Statue of Liberty, like I've been up there quite a few times, and honestly, those moments and those experiences are emotional for me because I think of my attachment to being a proud American, right? And
Mm-hmm.
knowing what they symbolize and what they represent and what they mean for our country. And so, like, a piece of artwork that definitely demonstrates and shows the everyday American, or like even just the blue collar working man. Um, a lot of times I'll have emotional reactions to some of those things. I mean, if I see, for example, a classic Ford Mustang or Chevelle, and they're typically like American red driving down the road, I am a sucker for a classic. Like I would love to have a classic car versus a new one. And those speak America to me as well. And
Oh yeah, like the classic muscle car.
they make me so happy. Yes. Yes. They make me
Like
happy. I love them.
I know, I do too. I mean, they like bring such this like strong sense of nostalgia, and just like just seeing them is one thing, but then like even sitting in it, it like
Hmm.
takes you into another time, and you're like, oh, I wish I could just be there. And it like the whole thing is an experience.
Yeah, I definitely one day want to own one. And when I say that, it's either a classic muscle car or a classic truck. I just love those two things, and I think that they speak to the past time, but they move me in a different way. It's really funny. It's really interesting.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up another one, and this
Okay.
is not necessarily one that's like on a list. Like I haven't seen it on any of the lists anywhere, but to me, it is classic Americana. And if anybody who knows anything about them is going to 1,000% agree, these things are made in America still to this day. But the Airstream,
Oh yes, the classic camper pull
the
behind.
classic camper, the silver bullet, the vintage ones are actually, you can polish them and make them like mirror finish. But I don't think that's the case today.
They're super cute. They are super cute. I feel like I could see you owning one day.
I will
I'm
own
not.
one. I may be 80, but I will own one.
I'm not a camper. I'm the first to admit that like I'm good. I don't need to be in the woods. I don't need to stay in a camper. I prefer an Airbnb or a hotel. Uh, but they are super cute and I love them and I agree, especially when you see one being pulled up to the mountains or just, your class. It's very classic. I agree. Um, what are some things that you do that make you feel more Americana?
Um, let's see. Okay, so like a picnic.
Mm,
Like even I think that I mean, and maybe it's just because it's summertime and it is the week of the fourth, so you think like barbecues and cookouts and like I know eating outside in Europe is like totally common, but like a picnic or like a barbecue, like that kind of experience just feels very American to me.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
dare I say, a pig picking.
I do those. Yes, I partake in one of those every year. It's a big one for Memorial Day.
Yeah. So,
So
I mean, well, and you got to call it a pig picking. You can't call it, we're going to go to a picnic or we're going to go over to so and so's house to eat some barbecue. No, you're going to a pig picking. And that usually means that there is a half or whole pig that's being cooked and you're literally going to pick it off the bone.
yeah, yeah. The event that we go to, they cook it all night long. So Friday night they have a low country rule, which I find Americana too. It's just not quite part of the area we're from, but it's very low country south, which is amazing. The food is amazing, and then they cook the pig all night long, and it's an entire pig. And
Yeah.
I get it from a butcher pen, which I know people don't know necessarily that term, but I grew up on a butcher pen, like with one across from my house, and so that's where they raise the cows, they raise the pigs, and they go pick out the pig and bring it back that day, and then start cooking it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very
And
much a
the cook is like camping out with the pig. Like it's like a whole, like you said, it's like a whole weekend
yeah,
worth of like cooking and camaraderie and um just like fun celebrating togetherness. And that is a very American, I would say, American thing to do
yeah,
is go to or at least be involved with a pig picking. Very American.
yeah. Something I do every year with the women in my family is like they garden. I don't quite have a garden yet, just based on where I live. They garden and they harvest and things like that, but then we can. And that's such a amazing day. Like we spend the entire day pickling, canning, pressure cooking things like jalapenos and pickles and salsa and our homemade spaghetti sauce and um, canning corn and green beans. And so that's one of those moments that I'm like, yes, this is very Americana. It is old school and it's something that I love and I hopefully will carry on with the girls one day is teaching them how to do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had, before I had children, I had a garden and it was large and it was way more than I could handle. And my husband gave me the hardest time. And I just remember like it was hard work. But it was big, like I had to go out there at least once or twice a week and like hoe it and take the weeds out and just clean it up. And as far as like it looking nice and not being overtaken by the weeds, I did not use any kind of pesticides on it or anything like that, but I was out there physically manual labor working in it multiple times a week. And then plus, making sure it's watered and things are, because it, like it is now, it's like a desert out there. There's no rain in sight. So and then, but that was when I figured out how to can okra. And that, I mean, it worked out great after I got the hang of it. And it was so fun.
Yeah. It's nice to like use your hands and but it be done for simple things, I feel like.
Yeah, it was
And
definitely very rewarding.
yeah, and then it's like when you open it to eat it later, once it's kind of aged a little and the flavors set in and you're like, I did that. And that's just very Americana. It's like I did that myself. It's like the American dream in a can, in a bell jar.
Yes. Well, okay, so it's funny that you say the American dream. Um, because that's definitely something that makes the list as far as Americana. And it kind of
Mhm.
ties back to the whole definition of Americana in the, what characterizes America. I mean, I think we take it for granted or don't even think about it sometimes because of course, we live here, but there is such a thing and it's still very much alive, the American dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, this ability or opportunity to be able to come in and build something and it be yours, not necessarily just entrepreneurship, but just being able to have a career that you get to choose freely and you get to show up for. And depending on how much you put in or invest and things like that, the return comes back to you. And that's very much part of an American dream. But then there's also this idea of being able to go and build your own business and the idea of capitalism that still exists in America and not many other places.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the belief that you can basically attain your own version of success.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
whatever
really good way to put it.
whatever your definition of success is, you can attain it in America.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great way to put it. Is that also from the World Wide Web? Fact check
None of
for
my
me,
thoughts,
Salem.
none of my thoughts are my own. Yeah, that is from the internet. I mean, I kind of summed it up in like a few different definitions here, but ultimately that that's what I'm seeing online as far as like a written definition
Yeah.
by someone more eloquent than myself.
Nah. You definitely turn it up when you have to. I think you don't give yourself enough credit there.
Yeah.
Because I don't do the fact checking. I definitely rely on you to come to the table with the background.
Hey, I have to pause it.
Okay.
I think I got a cow on the road. Speaking of Americana, give me like 2 seconds to go tell Justin so he
Okay.
can go poke his head outside.
Okay.
Did you get my text? I texted you. There's a cow on the road, I think. The neighbor was kind of big. There's 3 calves. The neighbor was on our side of the road standing at the fence.
Oh, has that been missing this whole time?
Hmm. Are all 3 of them out there?
How are we getting out?
I don't know. It looked like he just hopped over the fence right there at the road. Well, see, in my line of sight, that tree is right there. So I didn't know if he was still on our side or if he was in the road. But we might have 3. He might.
Ta-da. All right. Well, where do we want to take this conversation next, Salem?
Okay, so we've kind of talked about like the laundry list or a list of some sort. We talked a little bit about food. We talked about a little bit kind of like things. And we talked about some cultural symbols like the flag, the cowboy baseball, blue jeans. One thing that we haven't really talked about, but we almost got there when I brought up my dream, my American dream of having an Airstream is the road trip, like the whole concept of a road trip, being like part of Americana. And like the idea of like seeing the entire United States. I mean, consider that the United States is so much larger than most of the countries in the rest of the world in terms of like volume, or like land, not necessarily people, but like the number of people, but I mean the actual land itself. And just think about how long it takes for us to get to South Carolina. That's how long it might take to get from one country to the next in Europe, right? So
Yeah,
um
that's
the
actually a
idea of like,
really good point. Yeah, I actually have a couple friends that don't live in America. They're not American. But so the director of operations at our company, her and her husband actually during COVID bought a van and traveled the United States. Like they did the van thing, right? And she kept saying, she's like, I just don't understand why more Americans don't travel inside their country because they have way more things to see than most other areas. Like you have to travel country to country in order to see the same things that you can see all within one country in America. And it is very
Right.
Americana to be able to hit those states or see the different seasons or the different terrains. And yeah, it's really interesting. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Well, and like just the whole concept of the road trip itself,
Yeah.
not just like the scenes, but like just the being in the car and the travel. I also consider like some of the more iconic roads in the US. So like Route 66.
Yeah.
That's that road sign, that symbol, that is part of Americana.
Yeah, it's in so many movies. It's a part of just the identity of the
Yeah.
US. Yeah.
So, okay, you brought up movies. What are some classic, like Americana-esque movies that come to your mind?
Top Gun all day long. The original.
Okay.
Um, let's see. What else? What else? What else?
Forrest Gump.
Um, yes, Forrest Gump. Absolutely. Don't know. Yeah. Oh, what's another one? Grease. I feel like Grease is like the most classic of classics. Everybody should
Yes.
watch that. Uh, what else? Hmm.
Hmm.
What's the one with Sandra Bullock in it?
Steel Magnolias.
Still Magnolias. And then there's
Is
another
that it?
one. That was one of them that I was thinking. And then the other is a little controversial, but it's, trying to think. I can't think of what it is right this minute. I don't know. What do you have any others on the top of your head?
Um, the World Wide Web is telling us Gone with the Wind.
Mm, yeah.
I don't know that I've ever watched Gone with the Wind.
I don't know that I have. And I take that back. I have. I was just really young. It was at my mama's house. So that just lets you know it was probably on one of those three rabbit ear channels that she got, and we watched it. And she was like, Megan, this is a part of history. You should watch this. And I'm pretty sure I read the book too. Uh, so yeah. Well, what else? What else do we have?
In terms of movies or just Americana?
Just Americana in general. Maybe a next category of Americana.
Next category of Americana.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you can think about like brands, like
Like
classic
Levi's,
American brands, like Levi's. We talked about the
Wranglers.
cars, the cars, like, and of course, like these brands, they're known for being made in America, and
Right.
like being a symbol of American culture. So Levi's is like a natural one because, of course, blue jeans is like on the list of cultural items that
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
characterize America. Um, but okay, so Budweiser,
Yes.
like Coca Cola,
Oh, my favorite. A cold can
um,
of Coca Cola or a glass
hmm
bottle Coke.
yeah,
Just
Harley Davidson.
yeah, that's a good one. Trying to
Let's
think what
see,
else we got. What are other iconic brands?
Marlboro. I'm butchering that, but like cigarettes, it sounds
Yeah.
terrible, but that's on the list.
Not our best moment, but yes. I mean, but it was its own brand for a long time, if you remember. Like my mom and my dad, my biological dad, were both smokers, and I swear my dad constantly would get gifts because he was a loyal customer to Marlboro. I swear, like I think I'm pretty sure he had a jacket at one point. Um, and this is because he was like a loyal customer, and they did rewards back then. Uh, so it used to be very much just an iconic brand when smoking was very popular and acceptable.
Well, and I mean, consider in Europe, it's still acceptable in a
Yeah,
lot of places.
yeah, that is very true.
Um, Another like classic brand in terms of like fashion that make you think of Americana. I'm not necessarily saying that for today that they're made in America. I'm just saying that these brands, just in general, like their style that they're known for, just brings you back to the whole concept of Americana. And that is like Tommy Hilfiger.
Mm,
I mean, their logo is red, white, and blue.
yep,
Um, and then like Ralph Lauren.
agreed. Yeah, those were the brands, and they go through a revolving door. They always come back around as popular. Like I hear from my 11-year-old that preppy is starting to come back. So I can only expect to see more Tommy Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren in the school styles coming next year, right? Um, we'll see, but it was kind of a thing when we were younger. So
Oh,
there,
it was big.
there's
And
no
then
rules to style.
when we were in college, like, oh, I had so much of it. And I will say though that then, now obviously everything then was not as expensive, but I went in Ralph Lauren at one of the outlets at the beach. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
prices in there. I was floored. Like I was expecting things to be high, obviously, but usually at the outlet you can get something for a decent price. And I mean, there were jeans on the clearance rack that were $150 on clearance.
Oh
I
my.
thought, okay, something has happened and I missed it, but I can now no longer afford this brand even on clearance.
Yeah, I think that might just be a unfortunate consequence of our inflation and economy right now. But um, they did used to be a lot more affordable. But I honestly think even Target's getting a little bit expensive in what they're asking in their for their stuff. So um,
Oh yeah, this conversation could easily take a turn, but
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, just in general, like the I that style. I think like, Ralph Lauren has a very classic style. The Oxford shirt, classic
yeah.
like jeans. That look. Like they're very well known for that, and that's a classic look. It doesn't really go out of style.
No, it's almost like what are they calling it right now? Coastal grandma or it's very
That
kind of
that
it
is a
reminds me of
thing.
like the Hamptons or you know
Yeah.
that's where you go and you see that's how they dress. They've got it tied around their shoulders with their little collars and it's tucked in with their khakis and yeah. Yep.
So a brand that is known for that style too, but less trendy or less like it doesn't seem to ride that wave, that trend wave, but it still has that kind of clothing. And it's really kind of, if you think about it, like we think about Ralph Lauren and it being like preppy and like that would be like your nice clothes. But that type of style, I think, like back in the day, was really more or less your casual wear.
Hmm.
Jeans weren't the norm. I mean, you wore jeans when you were like doing work, um, or out in the woods, or, you
Yeah.
know, like that was like your casual dress down wear. Even the collared shirt, like you think back in the 50s, women wore dresses all the time. And if you were to see like a woman in pants and a shirt, like there was a specific reason for that.
Yeah.
Um, and so some of these brands, like they were originally like marketed as like workwear or like sportswear. Um, but another brand that, like I said, doesn't ride the trend wave like Ralph Lauren does and isn't at quite that same price point, but is LL Bean, and it's still made in the US.
Yes. Yeah. That's I still get their catalog, which is hilarious. Catalogs themselves in general was probably
Yeah.
Americana, but I still get their catalog about like once or twice a year, depending on the season. And I think it's because our girls' book bags are purchased from there. So
100%.
yeah. But yeah, you're right. They definitely do. They definitely do that still, and they're timeless. I feel like you said, like they're a timeless brand that knows their identity and doesn't do anything different than what they've always done.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, they're known for like high quality goods, like you said. Um, and they also they happen to sell clothing, which is also very high quality. But I think they're more known for like their boots, first of all. And then, yeah, I had an LL Bean book bag growing up, and we still have it. Like it has
Yeah,
definitely stood the test of time. But their clothes are also very nice as far as like quality goes.
yeah,
Um, like their men's shirts. Okay, so I have another brand. You ready?
I'm ready.
And this was like so obvious. I don't know why we didn't say it. So Carhartt.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's kind of your working man's brand too, or
Yeah.
hunter, or just outdoors. Which I think
Mm-hmm.
what everything we've kind of talked about, that not even just timeless as a thread between all of them, but the durability,
Yeah.
like just the the durability of what they have, this the stability and the strength to stand the test of time is just so Americana, I think, throughout everything we've talked about. I mean, people are still driving around those 65 Chevelles, so, and people are still doing, wearing Levi's and Carhartt, and people, and they keep them for years and years. You still have your LL Bean book bag. It's just this idea of durability and standing the test of time. I feel like really captures what Americana is.
I mean, that is 100% true. I think that yeah, and that's so well said. I mean, I just look back. Okay, let's just say, for example, we're not straying away from brands, but I'm just going to go this sidebar for a second. Like if you go on Pinterest and you just search Americana, you put the word Americana in, it comes up with tons of red, white, and blue, obviously. But like some of the very first images that come up in that search, everything is like vintage and retro
Yeah.
with that nostalgic flair. So I think it ties back to what you just said as far as like standing the test of time. I mean, yes, it's nostalgic, but um also it just like you said, it's these are things that have stood the test of time.
And have always been a part of our American identity. I mean,
Right.
if there's something that you hope is still representative of Americana and America itself, when our children are in their mid 30s, so 20, let's say 25 years from now, 25 to 30 years from now, what would it be? What are some things?
Like, are you thinking about, or is this limited to like things, like back
No,
to the original definition of like we're talking about material things, or is it just like concepts?
let's go with things first, and then we'll talk concepts at the end.
Okay, so I don't think the idea. I think that a Coca Cola is going to stand the test of time. Like it will never not be refreshing to have a
Um,
cold can or glass or whatever of Coca Cola.
yeah, I would agree with that one.
I mean, I like there's just like there's nothing else that tastes like a Coke, and it just is so refreshing sometimes.
Mm, it is it's my favorite. I have a weakness. Like if I don't like sodas in general, but and like I don't even like the taste of any of them, honestly. But I do love a Coca Cola. I don't think it's the same as any. I don't think it's a soda. I think it's maybe that's why I'm like this is the American drink.
like like Coke, it doesn't count in the
Doesn't
category of sodas.
count. It does. It's superior to all. um, let's see. Anything
But
else?
other than that, I mean, obviously, I would never want anything to happen to the symbol of the American flag, or um, doing like just the whole idea of like being together on a holiday like the 4th.
Mm,
I mean, it does seem to be a holiday where you do spend time with your family, or at least your neighbors, your community. Like
hmm.
you get together with people, and so I would want that tradition in some way, shape, or form to continue. So, I mean, we have other holidays, but I mean, the 4th is a celebration of the independence of our nation. I mean, which it is, it's very important for our country, but it maybe not necessarily have like all of these strong family ties like Christmas does. Um,
Right.
but it's still a time for like coming together and just like celebrating the fact that we're all connected in this one particular way, which is that we are Americans and
Yeah.
that we get to live in this like wonderful nation where we can be free, like you said, to think our own thoughts. And still, the concept of the American dream is alive. So, those types of things are what I would not want to change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's history for a reason. Hopefully it continues to be taught in schools, but also as parents and people raising little ones, it's our responsibility to make sure they understand it as well. Um, yeah, I would agree with that too. I think I think the idea of just some simple traditions. Like I hope, like I said, I've already said, I hope my girls know how to can one day. Even if they don't have gardens, they at least have that memory and that experience. And if they really needed to, they could pick it up and figure it out, right? They could figure out how to make their own foods. Um, what else? What else would I want? I'll tell you what, we didn't even talk on music, but country music. Like classic country music. Reba McEntire, she can't go out of style. Like she just can't. Dolly
No,
Parton, hello. Um, American Dream, all the things she is. So I really hope that they continue country music and it's a part of who they are. Um, what about concepts? I mean, you kind of already talked on the one about the freedom and the celebrating that. Is there any other ones that you're like, not even just Americans in general, but for my family, I think this is probably a stronghold or a belief that I want to make sure is instilled in your legacy.
right. I mean, I think another one, and this just is more about the fact that we're all Americans, is like the pride that comes from being an American. And I don't mean like the ignorant pride, I mean the actual pride of being an American. I think it's easy to get wrapped up in what's going on and be impacted by all the negativity going on in the world. Um, but when it comes down to it, I'm still very proud to be an American.
Yeah,
You
I would
know,
agree.
it's so I would hope that that doesn't go away.
No, oh, it's exhilarating and motivating and super exciting when you start to hear people shout or chant like USA, USA. I'm
At,
serious. I get so pumped. It's like an
at like
adrenaline
a
rush
game, like thinking
at a
like at a
game or
game,
just, um, so like,
or
you know,
even as I
political
mean
debates right
something else.
now. So like it's just
That's what I was going to
happening, right?
say. like the Olympics are getting ready to happen, and
Olympics.
this is going to be an interesting, like it's just a coming together of the nation,
Yeah.
another coming together of the nation, to compete against different countries in the world, and it's just something that we can all rally behind. And so I
Yeah.
think that those are like the things that I don't want to go away. Um, but obviously, yes, like you said, let's like some of the more simple things and the simple traditions, that especially I don't know if it's more Southern or if it is just throughout the nation, but like the whole concept of the garden and the canning and the cultivating the land, that is a concept that I don't want my child to lose. His extreme passion for tractors right now give me a lot of promise. So I don't think we're gonna have a problem there, but you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Tractors. We didn't even talk about John Deere.
I know it
Um,
was it was next on my list of brands.
yeah, another icon. Yeah. Wow. Well, I think it's clean to say that we are both proud Americans, and just the icons and the meanings and the symbols of the things that we appreciate and want to celebrate, but also brought up today are um, things that I hope others don't lose sight of, right? And maybe it's a great time for reflection. I mean, it is the 4th of July. And so what better time? And then the Olympics kick off right after that. So what better time to actually truly not just celebrate, but also gain a deeper understanding of who you are and your identity as an American by looking into the
Yeah.
Americana.
Well, and it's summertime. So this is the perfect time to like simplify. Spend the time outside as long as it's, it's not sweltering. But like being outside, being, in nature, like going to the mountains. This is a perfect time to go to the mountains and just like totally simplify what you're doing.
Yeah,
Get off the phone, spend time together, and really appreciate your surroundings and what we have access to live in this area.
absolutely. Well, maybe we should take our own advice and do that. And I think until next time.
Until next time.
We hope today's episode gave you some inspiration and something new to try. Until next time, friends, you've got this.